The Zithari ships arrived at Earth expecting to find a frozen tomb. Commander Velthara stood on the bridge of her massive vessel and watched the blue planet grow larger on the view screen. Her species had mapped this world 3,000 years ago when their long-range sensors detected a sudden climate catastrophe, an ice age so severe it should have killed everything. Now the ice was finally receding, and the Zithari had come to claim an empty world. But the sensors were showing something impossible. Life signs, millions of them. Deep underground in vast networks of tunnels and caverns, Velthara ordered her teams to investigate. The first landing parties descended into the frozen wasteland and found entrances to cities carved into mountains. Humans emerged from these underground sanctuaries with weapons ready. They had survived. Not just a few scattered tribes, but entire civilizations thriving beneath the ice. The Zithari could not believe what they were seeing. These primitive beings had endured conditions that would destroy most advanced species. They had built geothermal systems to harvest heat from the planet core. They had grown food in massive hydroponic farms lit by artificial suns. They had raised children who had never seen the real sky. 3,000 years of darkness and cold, and they had not given up. But there was something else in the sensor readings, energy signatures that made no sense. Ancient power sources buried even deeper than the human cities, technology that predated human civilization by millennia. Velthara ordered her science teams to locate the source. In the deepest cavern beneath the Rocky Mountains, a discovery team found a chamber sealed by doors covered in strange symbols. The doors were made of metal that their cutting tools could barely scratch. When they finally breached the entrance, they found a room filled with machines, humming with power after thousands of years. At the center stood a pod made of crystal and silver. Inside lay a woman. She had pale skin and long silver hair. Her ears came to elegant points. Her features were too perfect to be human. The scientists scanned her and found she was alive. Barely, in some kind of suspended animation. Next to her pod sat a massive egg. It was crystalline like the pod, but pulsed with internal heat. The temperature sensors showed it was getting warmer. Cracks began to form along its surface. The Zithari scientists backed away as the egg started to shake. Before they could evacuate the chamber, the woman in the pod opened her eyes. They glowed with violet light that filled the room. The pod opened with a hiss of ancient air. She sat up slowly as if waking from a long dream. Her lips moved, but the words were in a language no database could translate. Then the egg shattered. What emerged was beyond anything the Zithari had ever encountered. A creature with scales that shimmered like starlight, eyes like pools of molten gold, wings that unfolded to fill half the chamber. It was a dragon. Small now, but growing visibly with each breath. The woman reached out and touched the dragon's snout. A connection formed between them that the Zithari sensors could detect, but not understand. Their minds linked in ways that should not be possible. The dragon made a sound between a purr and a rumble. The woman smiled for the first time. She spoke again, and this time a translation. Matrix caught fragments. Words about duty and guardianship and waiting. The Zithari team leader tried to communicate. He spoke in standard galactic trade language. The woman tilted her head and listened. Then she responded in broken but understandable words. She said her name was Claire. She was a warden. She had been sleeping, waiting for something. But she could not remember what. The dragon she called Ashira. The hatchling stayed close to Claire and watched the Zithari with suspicious eyes. News of the discovery spread quickly. Velthara herself came down to see this impossible woman and her dragon. She brought soldiers, heavy weapons. The Zithari had not come to Earth looking for a fight, but they were prepared for one. This planet belonged to them now. Any inhabitants would need to accept Zithari rule or be relocated. When Velthara made this clear to the human leaders, they laughed. Commander Lisa Chen of the Northern Sanctuary. told the aliens that humanity had survived 3,000 years of ice. They would survive the Zithari, too. General Kate Morrison of the Western Holds was less diplomatic. She said the Zithari could leave peacefully or leave in pieces. The choice was theirs. Velthara was not impressed by human bravado. She had weapons that could crack mountains, ships that could bombard cities from orbit. What could these underground dwellers do against such power? But then reports came in about Claire. The human resistance had found her before the main Zithari force arrived. A small group led by a scout named Bella Harris had been exploring the deep caverns. They discovered the chamber and witnessed her awakening. When Claire emerged with Ashira, the humans had no idea what to make of her. In their historical records, elves were myths, stories from before the Great Freeze, fairy tales parents told children about magical beings who lived in forests under stars. But here she was, real and confused and speaking words no one had heard in 3 millennia. The dragon made everything more complicated. Ashira was growing fast. Within hours, she was the size of a large dog. Within days, she would be big enough to ride, and the power radiating from her made even the bravest soldiers nervous. Claire tried to explain what she remembered. There had been a war long ago, before the ice. Something terrible had happened. She had made a choice, a sacrifice. But the details were locked away in her mind, fragmented and unclear. What she did know was that the Zithari presence felt wrong. Their mining operations on the surface were disturbing something deep below, something that should stay buried. She told the human leaders they needed to stop the aliens, not just drive them away, but stop them completely. Otherwise, everyone would die. Not just humans and Zithari, but everyone in the galaxy. Velthara dismissed these warnings as the ravings of a primitive creature. She did not care about ancient myths or half-remembered prophecies. The Zithari needed the resources buried in Earth crust, an element called void stone that powered their faster-than-light drives. Scanners showed massive deposits deep underground, enough to fuel their empire for 1,000 years. Mining would begin immediately. When human resistance fighters tried to sabotage the first drilling site, Velthara ordered retaliation. Zithari gunships bombed a small surface settlement called New Denver. 2,000 humans died in the attack. Claire watched from a mountain ridge as the city burned. Ashira trembled beside her. The dragon wanted to fight, wanted to unleash the fire building in her throat, but Claire held her back. Not yet. They were not ready. The bond between them was new and untested. Ashira had the instincts of a warrior, but not the training. Claire had fragments of knowledge about combat, but could not access the full memories. If they attacked now, they would die, and humanity would lose its only advantage. So Claire made a different choice. She would train, learn to fight alongside Ashira properly, recover the skills locked in her damaged memory, and when they were ready, when the bond was strong enough, they would show the Zithari what it meant to face a warden and her dragon in battle. The war had begun, but the real fight was still to come. The Zithari wasted no time establishing their dominance over Earth. Within weeks, they had built forward bases on every continent, massive drilling platforms that bored deep into the planet, crust searching for voidstone. The sound of their machines echoed through the underground sanctuaries, a constant reminder that the aliens were taking what they wanted. Claire spent her days in the training caverns beneath the Rocky Mountain Sanctuary. Ashira had grown enormous in just a few weeks. Already she was the size of a small aircraft. Her scales had hardened into armor that could deflect most human weapons. Her wings could create windstorms when she flew through the larger caverns, and her fire. When Ashira breathed her first true flame, it melted a boulder into glass. The heat was so intense that soldiers, watching from 100 meters away, had to shield their faces. Claire felt every sensation through their bond. The buildup of energy in Ashira's chest, the moment of release, the satisfaction of destruction. It was intoxicating and terrifying. Through their connection, Claire began to remember. Not all at once, but in fragments, flashes of memory that came during training or in dreams. She remembered being called the Warden, a title given to elite warriors who bonded with dragons. She remembered a war that spanned worlds, an enemy that came from beyond the stars, not the Zithari, but something older, something darker. She remembered making a choice that cost her everything, a weapon activated, a climate catastrophe triggered deliberately. The Ice Age was not natural, it was her doing. She had frozen Earth to seal away something terrible, but the details remained unclear. What had she sealed? Where was it? And why did the Zithari mining operations make her so uneasy? Ashira helped her search the memories. The dragon could sense things. Claire could not. Through their bond, Ashira showed her images of vast darkness, a presence buried deep beneath the planet's surface, something ancient and hungry, waiting. Meanwhile, the human resistance was fracturing. Commander Lisa Chen believed negotiation was still possible. She wanted to show the Zithari that humanity was not primitive, that they could be valuable allies rather than obstacles. She sent diplomatic missions to the alien bases. Everyone was turned away, or worse, some simply disappeared. General Kate Morrison argued for immediate guerrilla warfare, hit and run attacks on Zithari supply lines, sabotage of their drilling equipment. Make the occupation so costly that the aliens would leave. But the Zithari had overwhelming firepower. Every human attack was met with brutal retaliation. Villages bombed, supply routes cut off, hostages taken. A young engineer named Maya Brooks proposed a third option: retreat deeper underground, seal the entrances. Wait for the Zithari to take what they wanted and leave. Humanity had survived 3,000 years beneath the ice. They could survive a few more decades in deeper darkness. The three leaders could not agree. Their arguments grew heated. Tensions rose. Claire attended one of their council meetings with Ashira coiled behind her. The dragon presence alone changed everything. Kate Morrison looked at the dragon and saw a weapon, something that could turn the tide of battle. Lisa Chen saw a bargaining chip, proof that Earth held wonders. The Zithari had not imagined. Maya Brooks saw a responsibility, a creature too powerful to risk in combat, too important to lose. Claire listened to them argue and felt a wave of frustration. These humans did not understand what they were facing. The Zithari were not the real threat. She tried to explain about the buried darkness, the sealed enemy, the warnings in her fractured memories. But without concrete details, her words sounded like paranoid delusions. Then Bella Harris arrived with new intelligence. The scout had been monitoring Zithari communications using captured equipment. She brought recordings that Maya Brooks translated. The aliens were not just mining for voidstone. They knew about something buried beneath Earth crust, something their scientists called a massive energy anomaly. The Zithari High Command had ordered increased drilling specifically targeting this anomaly. They believed it was a natural phenomenon, a new type of power source they could exploit. But their geological surveys were triggering seismic activity. Earthquakes rippled through the underground cities, tunnels collapsed, people died, and the temperature deep below was rising. Claire felt a cold certainty settle over her. The Zithari were going to wake it up. The thing she had sacrificed everything to keep dormant, the enemy that had nearly destroyed the galaxy. She did not know its name yet, could not remember the details of the ancient war. But she knew with absolute conviction that if the drilling continued, if the seals were broken, everyone would die. She told the human leaders they had to stop the mining, not slow it down, not negotiate about it. Stop it. Completely destroy the drilling platforms, drive the Zithari away from the deep sites. Do it now before it was too late. Kate Morrison agreed immediately. This was the kind of clear objective she understood. Lisa Chen was more hesitant. Attacking the drilling platforms would mean open war. No more possibility of peace. Maya Brooks pointed out the practical problems. The platforms were heavily defended, protected by shields and automated weapons, garrisoned by thousands of Zithari soldiers. A direct assault would be suicide. Unless they had an advantage, the aliens did not expect. Everyone looked at Claire and Ashira. The dragon had been watching the conversation with intelligent golden eyes. She knew they were talking about battle, about finally unleashing the power building inside her. Ashira wanted to fight. Claire could feel her eagerness through the bond. But Claire also felt the gaps in her own knowledge. She remembered combat techniques, but not completely. She knew there were rituals that strengthened the bond between rider and dragon, training methods that took years to master ancient weapons designed specifically for dragon warfare. If she rushed into battle now, if she attacked the platforms without proper preparation, she might win, or she might get herself and Ashira killed. And then humanity would have nothing. Kate Morrison did not want to wait. Every day the drilling continued, brought them closer to disaster. She proposed a compromise. A small strike team would infiltrate one of the smaller platforms, plant explosives, destroy it from within. Meanwhile, Claire and Ashira would continue training, preparing for the larger battles to come. Bella Harris volunteered to lead the infiltration team. She was the best scout in the resistance, knew how to move unseen, how to bypass security systems, how to get in and out before anyone noticed. Claire insisted on going with her. This was her responsibility. Her failure to stop Ashira could remain behind and continue growing, learning to control her power. But Claire needed to see the platforms herself, needed to understand what the Zithari were doing. The mission was set for 3 days later. In that time, Claire pushed herself harder than ever. She meditated with Ashira, trying to unlock more memories. Fragments came. She remembered the name of her first dragon, a male called Thornwing, who died in battle 2,000 years before the freeze. She remembered techniques for aerial combat, how to stay mounted during barrel rolls and dives, how to aim weapons while the dragon banked and turned. She remembered the feeling of other wardens, hundreds of them flying in formation, a fleet of dragons that blotted out the sun. All dead now, all gone. Only she remained, and Ashira, a young dragon who had never known war. Claire felt the weight of that responsibility. She was asking this innocent creature to become a weapon, to kill and burn and destroy, because the alternative was extinction, the night before the mission. Claire could not sleep. She sat with Ashira in the training cavern. The dragon had grown again. Now she was almost 300 feet long. Her wings could carry her through the largest underground spaces with ease. In a few more weeks, she would be too big for the caverns, would need to fly in the open sky, where Zithari sensors would detect her, where gunships would hunt. Claire rested her hand on Ashira's scaled neck. The dragon rumbled softly. Through their bond, Claire felt something she had not expected: contentment. Despite everything, despite the war and the danger and the uncertainty, Ashira was happy, happy to be alive, happy to be bonded with Claire, happy to have purpose. The dragon did not fear death, did not resent being made into a weapon. She had been born for this, created by ancient magic or science or both, to fight alongside her rider. This was what she wanted. Claire felt tears on her face, the first she had shed since awakening. She did not remember crying before, did not remember feeling this depth of emotion. But Ashira's love for her was overwhelming, and it gave her strength. Tomorrow they would begin the real war. Tomorrow they would strike back against the Zithari, and whatever happened, whatever the cost, Claire would not let her dragon down. The infiltration team reached the Zithari drilling platform at dawn. Claire and Bella Harris led 5 other soldiers through frozen wasteland. The platform rose from the ice, like a metal mountain, drilled towers and processing facilities surrounded by defensive walls. Automated guns tracked movement across the perimeter. Energy shields shimmered in the cold air. Getting inside would require perfect timing and luck. Bella had studied the guard rotations for weeks. She knew when the shift changes happened, when the shield cycled for maintenance, when human prisoners were brought in for forced labor. That was their opening. The team disguised themselves as prisoners, ragged clothes over body armor. Hands bound with breakaway restraints, Bella had killed a Zathari patrol and stolen their transport. Now they rode toward the platform gate in an alien vehicle. Claire kept her ears hidden under a hood, her violet eyes downcast. The guards at the gate scanned them briefly. Just another batch of humans for the work crews. The transport was waved through. Inside the platform, the noise was deafening. Massive drills grinding through rock and ice, ore processors churning transport vehicles, moving materials, thousands of workers, both alien and human. The team split up. Bella and 2 soldiers headed for the main drill shaft. Claire and the others made for the power core. If they could overload the reactor, it would destroy the entire facility. Claire moved through the crowds, keeping her head down, but her enhanced senses picked up everything. The layout of the base, the locations of weapon emplacements, the depth of the drilling, and something else. A feeling of wrongness that grew stronger as they descended. The drilling had gone deep, far deeper than the other platforms. This site was special, targeted. The Zathari were looking for something specific here. Claire reached a monitoring station and accessed the terminal. Her fingers moved instinctively across alien controls. Another recovered memory. She had used technology like this before. The data made her blood run cold. The drill had penetrated a chamber, a sealed vault buried 7 miles below the surface. Zathari scientists were analyzing what they found. Energy readings beyond anything in their database. Organic matter in stasis. Something alive. Something vast. Claire felt the memory slam into her mind with crushing force. The Void Titan. That was what slept beneath Earth. A cosmic entity that consumed worlds. 10,000 years ago, it had nearly destroyed the galaxy. Hundreds of civilizations fell before its hunger. The elves and their dragons fought it for centuries. Billions died. In the end, the only way to stop it was imprisonment. Seal it inside a planet. Freeze that planet to create a thermal barrier. Leave guardians to watch. Claire had been one of those guardians. She had triggered the Ice Age, knowing it would kill most life on Earth. A terrible choice. But the alternative was universal extinction. And now the Zathari had found the prison, had broken through the outer seals, were studying the Titan like it was a research specimen. Fools! They had no idea what they had unleashed. Claire abandoned stealth. She ran through the corridors toward the drill shaft. Alarms blared. Guards shouted, energy weapons fired. Claire dodged and weaved, her combat reflexes fully active now. She reached the shaft entrance and looked down. The drill had stopped. Scientists in environmental suits clustered around the opening instruments recorded data from below, and from the depths came a feeling, a presence stirring, something vast, becoming aware. Claire felt it touch her mind. Cold, hungry, curious. It recognized her, remembered the one who imprisoned it. The Void. Titan was waking up. Bella and her team appeared from a side corridor. They had planted their charges, were ready to blow the facility. But Claire knew now that destroying one platform would not be enough. The Titan was already breaking free. Its influence was spreading. She could feel it in the air, in the ground, in the minds of the people around her. Some of the Zathari scientists were behaving strangely, moving in synchronized patterns, speaking in unison. The Titan was taking control. Claire made a decision. She triggered her communicator, called Ashira. The dragon was miles away in the sanctuary, but their bond transcended distance. Ashira felt Claire need, felt her fear. The dragon launched herself into the air, burst from the hidden cavern exits, flew toward the platform at speeds that shattered sound barriers. Zathari sensors detected her immediately. Alarms went off across all their bases. Gunships scrambled, weapon systems activated. They had finally found the Dragon General. Kate Morrison had been waiting for this moment. When the Zathari focused on Ashira, the human resistance struck coordinated attacks on supply depots, ambushes on patrol routes, sabotage across 3 continents. The war exploded into full-scale combat. Ashira reached the drilling platform in minutes. She was magnificent, scales gleaming like stars, wings that blotted out the sun, eyes burning with golden fire. The automated defenses opened up, missiles streaked toward her, energy beams cut through the air. Ashira dodged most, tanked others. Her scales were harder than any armor the Zathari had. She descended on the platform like a meteor. Her claws tore through metal. Her tail smashed towers and her fire. When Ashira breathed her full power for the first time in combat, the result was apocalyptic. Plasma fire, hotter than the surface of a star. It melted everything it touched, turned metal to slag, vaporized soldiers, created a crater where the main drill tower had stood. Claire felt every moment through their bond, the rage, the joy of battle, the terrible beauty of destruction. She climbed onto Ashira, back, found handholds in the ridge scales. The dragon knew what to do. They had trained for this. Ashira dove into the drill shaft, down through 7 miles of tunnel, past the broken seals into the chamber below. What they found defied description: the void. Titan was not a creature in any conventional sense. It was vast, incomprehensible, part organic, part energy, part something beyond mortal understanding. Its body filled a cavern the size of a city. Tendrils of darkness spread across the walls, eyes like black holes opened and closed, a mouth that could swallow mountains. It had been dormant for 10,000 years. Now it was stirring, testing its prison, reaching out with its mind. Claire felt its attention focus on her, the warden who had sealed it away, the enemy it remembered, the Titan. Spoke. Not in words, but in concepts pushed directly into her brain. It showed her what would happen when it fully woke. Planets consumed, stars extinguished, galaxies reduced to void. It was hunger incarnate, entropy given form. And it was angry at being imprisoned. Claire raised her hand. Ancient weapons materialized from storage compartments in Ashira's saddle. She did not remember retrieving them from the archive, but her body knew what to do. Muscle memory older than mountains. She fired energy beams designed to harm things that should not exist. The Titan screamed, a sound that shook the planet. Earthquakes rippled across continents, tsunamis formed in thawing oceans. Ashira breathed fire directly into the Titan mass. The creature recoiled, pulled back, but it was not defeated, not even close. This was only a fragment of its true power, the smallest portion of its consciousness. To truly kill it would require power. Claire did not have weapons that were lost. An army of wardens and dragons that no longer existed. Claire realized with cold certainty that she could not win this fight, not alone, not now. All she could do was reseal the prison by time, hope that somehow, some way, a real solution could be found. She and Ashira fought their way back up the shaft. Behind them, the Titan raged. Its tendrils followed, trying to grab them, pull them back, consume them. They burst from the drill shaft just as the facility began to collapse. The charges Bella had planted detonated in sequence. The entire platform fell into the hole it had created. Taking hundreds of Zathari with it, Ashira flew clear, carried Claire to safety. Behind them, the ground continued to shake. Titan was not stopped, only delayed. And now the Zathari knew what they had found. Claire intercepted their communications as she flew back to Sanctuary. Commander Velthara was not retreating. She was calling for reinforcements, not to flee from the Titan, but to capture it, study it, weaponize it. The Zathari believed they could control anything with enough technology. Claire knew they were wrong, had seen civilizations fall to this exact arrogance. But how could she convince them? How could she stop them? The answer came from an unexpected source. When Claire and Ashira landed at the sanctuary, they found Maya Brooks waiting. The engineer had made a discovery in the ancient archives, hidden beneath layers of security files that Claire had locked away millennia ago. Information about the Slumber Fleet, 1,000 elven warships in dimensional stasis, crews in suspended animation, dragons sleeping beside their riders, an army waiting to be awakened, waiting for the day the Titan broke free. That day had come, but activating the fleet required a warden authorization, a neural interface with the quantum lock. And according to the archive files, the process would destroy the mind of whoever activated it. Claire would lose herself, everything she was, every memory, every thought. She would become an empty shell, and the bond with Ashira would sever. Without their connection, the dragon would die. Maya showed her the calculations, the certainty of it. There was no other way, no technological shortcut, no clever workaround to save humanity, to stop the Titan. Claire would have to sacrifice herself and Ashira. The dragon had followed her into the archive chamber. She understood what the humans were saying. Through the bond, she felt Claire despair. But Ashira did not hesitate. She pressed her massive head against Claire's chest, and through their connection showed her something. A memory not of the past, but of the future. A vision of Earth restored. Humans and elves working together. A world without ice, without war, without the Titan's shadow. It was worth dying for. Claire held her dragon and knew what she had to do. The Zithari deployed their ultimate weapon 3 days after the drilling platform collapse. A ship so massive it blotted out the stars, the Harvester. It was designed for one purpose, to crack open planets and extract their cores. Commander Velthara had grown tired of human resistance, tired of delays, tired of complications. The Harvester would drill through Earth crust in days, would extract every gram of voidstone, would give the Zithari everything they wanted, and if it woke the Titan fully, well, they had weapons to deal with that. Or so Velthara believed. The Harvester took position in orbit. Its drilling beam began to charge a lance of energy that would pierce atmosphere and crust in one continuous burn. Human satellites detected the buildup. Alarms went off in every sanctuary. People panicked. This was the end. No amount of resistance could stop something that size. General Kate Morrison called for evacuation. Move everyone deeper underground. Seal the tunnels. Hope some survived. Commander Lisa Chen tried one last time to negotiate broadcast messages to the Zithari fleet, offered surrender, offered cooperation, offered anything. The aliens did not respond. Maya Brooks ran calculations showing they had less than 48 hours before the drilling began. After that, earthquakes would destroy most underground cities. The Titan would break free completely. Everyone would die. Claire stood in the archive chamber, one hand on the quantum lock. The crystalline structure that controlled the slumber fleet, Ashira, lay beside her. The dragon had grown to full size now. Over 300 feet from nose to tail, wings that could create hurricanes, fire that could melt mountains, and a mind linked so deeply with Claire that they were almost one being. Breaking that bond would kill them both. Maya had confirmed it. The process of activating the quantum lock required a neural pattern, a complete scan of the activator consciousness. It would copy every thought, every memory, every aspect of identity, and in the process, burn out the original. Like making a perfect clone by destroying the source, Claire would cease to exist. And without her presence in the bond, Ashira would follow within minutes. A dragon could not survive without its rider. The bond was too deep, too fundamental. Kate Morrison argued there had to be another way. She had sent scouts to search for more archives, more ancient technology, anything that could give them an alternative. But time was running out. Bella Harris sat with Claire in those final hours. The scout had become her closest friend among the humans. They talked about small things, the taste of food, the beauty of flying, the sound of laughter, things Claire had barely experienced in her long life. She had been a warrior for so long, a guardian, a weapon. She had never really lived, and now she never would. Bella cried. Claire did not. She had made peace with this, had known from the moment she woke that her purpose was sacrifice, one last duty, one final service, then rest. Ashira nuzzled her. The dragon did not cry either. But through the bond, Claire felt a sorrow deeper than oceans, a love that transcended death. If this was the end, they would face it together. Then Maya Brooks burst into the chamber. She was carrying data pads. Her eyes were wild with excitement. She had found something, a breakthrough. The quantum lock did not need a single neural pattern. It could be distributed, spread across multiple minds. If enough people linked their consciousness together, they could share the burden, spare Claire from destruction. The idea was radical, unprecedented, dangerous. No one knew if it would work. The neural linking technology existed in the archives equipment designed for telepathic communication between wardens, but it had never been used this way, never at this scale. And if it failed, if the distributed network collapsed, everyone linked would die. Not just Claire, but dozens, maybe hundreds of volunteers. Maya ran the numbers. They needed at least 50 people. More would be safer. Each person would lose some memories, some cognitive function, but they would survive. And so would Claire and Ashira. General Kate Morrison was the first to volunteer. She stepped forward without hesitation. Commander Lisa Chen followed. Then Bella Harris. Then Maya herself. Within an hour, they had 200 volunteers, soldiers and civilians, engineers and farmers. People who had never met Claire, but who understood what she represented: hope, a chance for humanity to survive. The equipment was set up in the archive, chamber neural links distributed to each volunteer, Claire at the center, connected to all of them, Ashira lying beside her. The dragon would not participate directly, could not, but her presence stabilized. Claire kept her anchored. When everyone was ready, Maya activated the system. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. Claire felt her mind expand, suddenly connected to 200 other consciousnesses. She experienced their memories, their fears, their hopes. A soldier named Grace Martinez showed her memories of the surface world before the Zithari came, wide-open spaces under real sky. Bella Harris shared her love of exploration, the thrill of discovering new places. Lisa Chen gave her political cunning, the ability to see complex situations from multiple angles. Kate Morrison provided tactical knowledge, years of military experience. Maya Brooks contributed scientific understanding, the mathematics behind the quantum lock, on, each person adding a piece of themselves. The Gestalt entity they formed was something new, not quite Claire, not quite human, but a fusion of both. Together they reached for the quantum lock. The crystalline structure responded, scanning the distributed neural network, processing, analyzing, accepting. The lock disengaged across the solar system. In dimensional spaces hidden between reality, 1,000 ships began to wake. Elven warriors opened their eyes after 10,000 years of sleep. Dragons stretched wings that had not moved in millennia. Weapon systems powered up. Shields activated, the slumber fleet had awakened. On Earth, the neural link collapsed. 200 minds separated, returning to individual consciousness. Claire gasped. She was still herself, still whole. Memories were fuzzy, some details lost. But she lived around her. The volunteers stirred. Some were unconscious, some were crying, all were alive. Ashira roared, a sound of pure triumph. The dragon had felt the bond waver, had thought she was losing Claire, but they remained connected, stronger than ever. In orbit, the slumber fleet materialized, 1,000 warships appearing from nowhere, each one ancient beyond measure, each one armed with weapons that could reshape reality. The Zithari fleet detected them immediately. Velthara stared at her view screen in disbelief. Where had these ships come from? What were they? Her sensors could barely analyze their technology. It was beyond anything in the Zithari database, organic and mechanical magic and science. Impossible and real. The Elven fleet broadcast a message, an ultimatum in ancient galactic standard: leave Earth or be destroyed. Velthara was not intimidated. She had the Harvester. She had a fleet of her own. These newcomers might be advanced, but they had been asleep for millennia. Their systems would be outdated, slow, vulnerable. She ordered the attack, the Zithari fleet engaged, and learned immediately how wrong they were. The elven ships moved like living things, dodging fire with impossible precision. Their weapons punched through Zithari shields like paper dragonflights launched from hangar bays, thousands of them, each bonded to a rider, each a veteran of the ancient war. They tore through Zithari fighters with contemptuous ease. Velthara watched her fleet disintegrate ship after ship, falling, burning, destroyed. In 10 minutes, she lost half her forces. In 20 minutes, 2/3. She had no choice. She activated the Harvester core detonation. If the Zithari could not have Earth, no one would. The massive ship began to overload its reactor, a blast that would shatter the planet. Kill everyone, destroy everything. The Elven fleet detected the buildup, calculated trajectories, defensive options. None were sufficient. The Harvester was too large, too powerful. Its detonation would overwhelm any shield, destroy any vessel that tried to contain it. On the surface, Claire felt the danger through the quantum link. She was still connected to the fleet, still part of the awakened consciousness. She saw the problem, saw the countdown. 10 minutes to detonation, 5 minutes to minimum safe distance. The Elven fleet was evacuating, preparing to flee, abandoning Earth to save themselves. And she understood they had sacrificed their civilizations to seal the Titan, had slept for 10,000 years as guardians, but they were not suicidal. They would not throw away their lives needlessly. But Claire could not accept that. Could not let Earth die after everything she reached through the quantum link, touched the minds of the Elven commanders, showed them an alternative. A desperate plan. Impossible. Insane. But maybe, just maybe, possible. She would become the weapon. She and Ashira would absorb the power of the entire fleet channel, it through their bond, use it to contain the Harvester detonation, compress it to nothing. It had never been done. A single dragon, channeling the power of 1,000 ships. The energy would be astronomical, would burn them to ash, but with the quantum link distributing the load, with every elven warrior feeding their strength, with 200 human volunteers anchoring the connection, it might work. For a few seconds. Just long enough, the elven commanders agreed. They had no better option. The channel opened, power flowed, Claire and Ashira became something beyond mortal. The dragon grew to impossible size, temporarily transcendent, a creature of pure energy and will. Claire rode on her back, no longer merely physical. They rose from Earth's surface, flew toward the Harvester, faster than light, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Harvester core reached critical mass. Detonated reality shattered, and Claire and Ashira were there, at the center, containing it. The pain was infinite, the power beyond comprehension. For 5 endless seconds they held, compressed the explosion into a sphere, let it burn itself out against their will. Then it was done. The Harvester was gone, vaporized. Nothing remained but dust. Claire and Ashira fell back to Earth, exhausted, wounded, but alive, impossibly alive. The war was over. The Zithari fleet retreated in chaos. Commander Velthara had lost everything, her ship, her army, her pride. The remaining vessels fled toward the edge of the solar system, jumping to faster than light speed as soon as they could. running from the elven fleet, from the dragons, from the impossible beings who had stopped a planet-killer explosion with nothing but will. On Earth, the celebrations were immediate and overwhelming. Humans emerged from underground sanctuaries. They had watched the battle in orbit through makeshift telescopes and ancient satellites, had seen the elven ships appear, had witnessed Claire and Ashira transform into something godlike, had felt the moment when the harvester detonated, and somehow, impossibly, Earth survived. The Ice Age was truly ending now, not just from natural warming, but from the heat released during the orbital battle. Glaciers melted rapidly. Oceans rose. Continents that had been frozen for 3,000 years began to thaw, revealing landscapes no living human had ever seen. Claire lay in a healing chamber surrounded by elven medical technology. Her body had been pushed beyond all limits. Every cell damaged by the energy she had channeled. The doctors said she should be dead. The amount of power that flowed through her would have vaporized a star, but somehow she had survived, not unchanged. Her memories were even more fragmented now. Pieces of her consciousness scattered across the 200 humans who had linked with her. Sometimes she remembered being a soldier named Grace Martinez. Sometimes Bella Harris recalled being an ancient warden. Their minds had mixed, blended, created something new. Ashira recovered more quickly. Dragons were resilient. Her scales had burned away during the battle, revealing new growth underneath, harder, brighter. She was scarred but beautiful. And her bond with Claire remained strong, maybe stronger than before. When Claire finally woke, she found herself in a room filled with flowers, gifts from humans across the planet. People she had never met, who she had saved. General Kate Morrison visited first. She looked older. The neural linking had aged everyone who participated, stolen years from their lives, but she smiled, said it was worth it. Commander Lisa Chen came next. She brought news of negotiations. The remaining Zithari had sent ambassadors requesting peace, offering reparations. They had learned what happened when you underestimated Earth, when you assumed humanity was weak. Maya Brooks arrived with her usual pile of data pads. She had been analyzing the quantum link effects. The distributed consciousness had created unexpected connections. The 200 volunteers could now sense each other, feel each other, emotions, share thoughts across distances. They had become something like a hive mind, but voluntary, controllable. A new form of human evolution. Bella Harris just sat beside Claire's bed and held her hand. No words needed. The scout had shared her mind with the warden. They knew each other in ways that transcended friendship. Outside the recovery center, Ashira waited. She was too large to fit inside. Buildings now had grown even more during her transformation, but through their bond, Claire felt her presence, felt her patience, her love. When Claire was finally strong enough to walk, she went outside. Ashira lowered her massive head. Claire pressed her forehead against the dragon's snout. They stayed like that for a long time, two beings who had faced death together, who had become something beyond either species, who had saved a world. The elven warriors from the slumber fleet gathered in the days that followed. They were strangers in a strange time. Their civilizations were dust. Their worlds were gone. Everything they had known was lost, but Earth remained. This prison planet that humanity had turned into a sanctuary, it offered them something they had not expected. A second chance. The elves voted to stay, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as partners. They would help humanity rebuild, share their technology, guard the Titan seal together. In return, they would have a home, a purpose, a future. The void. Titan remained sealed beneath the planet's surface. The drilling had damaged the outer barriers, let a fragment of its consciousness wake, but the main entity was still imprisoned, still dormant. Claire and the elven commanders worked to repair the seals. strengthen them, ensure the creature could not escape again. It would require constant vigilance, generations of guardians, but humanity had already proven they could endure, could survive anything, and now they were not alone. 1 year after the battle, Earth had transformed. The ice was gone from most continents, forests grew in places that had been frozen, wasteland oceans teemed with life, cities rose on our surface. Built with combined human and elven technology, towering spires that reached toward space. Underground sanctuaries were not abandoned, but repurposed, turned into museums, archives, monuments to the 3,000 years humanity spent in darkness. Children who had never seen the sun now played under open sky. They learned about the Ice Age in schools, about the Zithari invasion, about Claire and Ashira. The Warden and her dragon became legends, stories told around fires, heroes in a new mythology. But to those who had linked with her, who carried fragments of her consciousness, Claire was something more. She was a reminder that individual sacrifice meant nothing without community. That strength came from connection, that survival was a choice made every day. The Zithari ambassadors arrived exactly 1 year after the Joppa retreat. They came in a small diplomatic vessel. Unarmed, humble Commander Velthara was not among them. She had been exiled by her own people, stripped of rank, sent to wander the galaxy alone. But she sent a message, asked for asylum, said she wanted to learn from her mistakes, wanted to understand how she had been so wrong. Claire granted the request. Everyone deserved a second chance. Even enemies. The ambassador meeting was held in the new capital city, a place called New Earth, built where the Rocky Mountain Sanctuary had been. Human leaders sat alongside elven commanders. Claire attended with Ashira coiled outside the building, visible through massive windows, a reminder of what would happen if peace failed. The Zithari offered everything: technology, resources, knowledge. They wanted to make amends, wanted to join the growing alliance between humans and elves, wanted to learn how to survive with honor instead of conquest. The negotiations took months, but eventually treaties were signed. Earth became the capital of a new confederation, an alliance of species who had learned the hard way that cooperation beat domination. Other civilizations heard the story, came to see the impossible planet. The world that had survived an ice age, that had defeated an invasion, that had stopped a cosmic entity, that had turned enemies into allies. Earth became a symbol, a beacon, a promise that even the darkest times could be endured. Claire and Ashira spent their days flying over the restored planet, visiting settlements, helping rebuild, training new dragon riders. Yes, new riders. The elven dragons from the Slumber Fleet were forming bonds with humans, creating hybrid pairs that combined human determination with elven grace. A new generation of guardians. Grace Martinez bonded with a dragon named Skyfire. Bella Harris partnered with a silver dragon called Whisper. Even Maya Brooks overcame her fear and linked with a young dragon who loved mathematics. The future was being written in the sky, in the bonds between riders and dragons, in the cooperation between species, in the gardens growing on once frozen ground. Claire stood on a mountain peak one evening, watching the sunset. The sky was painted orange and purple and gold, colors she had not seen in 10,000 years. Ashira landed beside her. The dragon was enormous now, one of the largest of her kind, but gentle with Claire. Always gentle. Through their bond, they shared thoughts without words, remembered the journey, the awakening in the crystal pod, the doctor first flight together, the battles, the sacrifices, the victory, and the peace that followed. Claire thought about the human volunteers who had saved her, who carried pieces of her consciousness. They were scattered across Earth now, living their lives. But sometimes, in quiet moments, they felt her presence, and she felt theirs. They were connected forever. A family born from necessity, strengthened by choice, Bella Harris climbed up the mountain to join them. She brought news. The deep scanners showed the Titan seal was stable, reinforced by new barriers. The entity beneath would sleep for another 10,000 years, maybe longer. By then, humanity would be stronger, more advanced, better prepared. Claire smiled. The first genuine smile of pure happiness she could remember. Her duty was fulfilled. The galaxy was safe, Earth was thriving, and she had something she never expected: friends, family. A reason to live beyond combat and sacrifice. Ashira rumbled contentedly. The dragon had never known anything but this, but through Claire memories, she understood how rare it was, how precious they sat together and watched the stars appear, not as threats, not as sources of invasion, but as possibilities. Humanity had endured 3,000 years of ice, had fought off an alien invasion, had stopped a cosmic nightmare. What else could they accomplish? Where would they go next? The questions excited rather than frightened, because whatever came, they would face it together. Humans and elves and dragons, allied species bound by respect and shared struggle. The galaxy had underestimated Earth, had seen it as a frozen tomb, a resource to exploit, a problem to solve. But Earth was so much more. It was hope made solid, resilience given form. A testament to what could be achieved when people refused to give up, when they worked together, when they believed in tomorrow. Claire looked at Bella and saw her own thoughts reflected. The scout had become like a sister, connected by the neural link, by shared experience, by friendship earned through fire. They did not need to speak, just sat together. Three beings who had saved the world, who had earned their peace. The wind carried the scent of growing things, of life returning to places long dead, of a planet healing. In the distance, other dragons flew, riders on their backs, training, playing, living. The sight filled Claire with something she had never felt in her long existence: contentment. This was what she had fought for, not just survival, but life, real life with all its beauty and possibility. Ashira nudged her gently. Time to fly. They launched into the air together. Bella waved from below. Already planning tomorrow missions, already thinking about the future. Claire and Ashira soared over New Earth, over forests and fields, over cities built by human hands and elven knowledge, over a world that refused to die. The stars above, the earth below, and between them, life enduring, thriving, unstoppable. This was humanity gift to the galaxy, not weapons, not technology, not conquest, but the simple, stubborn refusal to give up, the determination to survive, to grow, to reach for tomorrow, no matter how dark today might be. Claire had lived for 10,000 years, had seen civilizations rise and fall, had fought wars that spanned galaxies. But this moment, flying over a restored Earth, bonded to a dragon who loved her, part of a community that valued her, this was worth everything. Every sacrifice, every loss, every lonely millennium standing guard, it was worth it. The Zithari had come expecting to find ruins. Instead, they found the most dangerous thing in the universe: hope, and the warriors who defended it. Earth endured, humanity endured. And now, finally, Claire could rest, not in death, not in stasis, but in life, real beautiful. Hard-won life. She and Ashira flew into the sunset, together, always together. The warden and her dragon guardians of a world that refused to die, heroes of a species that never surrendered, and friends. Simple as that, just friends, flying home.